In this second part of the cultural evolution topic, I'm going to talk about different factors or things that influence how ideas are spread. Okay. Number one, in order for an idea to spread, it must be communicated. And therefore, first and foremost, ideas spread within groups. Okay. And cultural change will kind of start and spread like this. Now, clearly, the idea of what is a social network has modified greatly in the last couple of years based on, of course, the internet. Okay? But still, despite the internet and having the ability to spread ideas, ideas still tend to cluster, or cultural ideas tend to cluster. As you can see here in the electoral map from 2020, the red states and the blue states clearly do not, they're not dotted around, other than a little Georgia issue there. They're not, they're pretty clustered together. They're pretty tight. Ideas stick together. Okay. So in one study here, um, the researchers looked at different stories and they made different variations on them, and then they varied what their independent variable was how emotional an idea was. So create three versions of this emotional story. In this case, mild, moderate, and strong. And I disagree that this is mild, but in the mild version, they said before he drank anything, he saw that there was a dead rat inside. I think I might be panicking at that point. Moderate degree of emotion. Halfway through, he saw. You can read the last one. I hope you're not eating breakfast, okay? But after they read these stories, they were like, will you tell this to another person? And it turned out that it was the strong emotional stories which were more likely to be spread, told to others. In a different version here, or a different study, they created items that were either intuitive or counterintuitive. So, like a closing door or a thirsty cat, or counterintuitive, a thirsty door or a closing cat, this kind of an idea. And they created a list of 18 of these items, and then they had people read them, and they had participants were placed into one of four conditions. In one condition, they were completely intuitive, and or they were minimally counterintuitive. That is to say, most of the items were things like a thirsty cat and a closing door, but there were a few things that were, and equal frequencies are completely counterintuitive. And 3 minutes after the study was over, they tested their memory, and people tended to remember intuitive things, thirsty cats and closing doors. But bring them back a week later, and guess what happens is they tend to remember not the entirely intuitive things so well, but minimally counterintuitive. So the ones that have a little bit of strangeness to them. And so an analysis done of Grimm's fairy tales, it broke apart because the Grimm brothers, or Brothers Grimm, I guess, they wrote hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories, some of which have stood the test of time and become popular and successful, some that have not stood the test of time. And so they broke it up into, successful and unsuccessful, and looked at how many counterintuitive ideas. And as a rule, those fairy tales that had minimally counterintuitive ideas were the ones that were more likely to be successful.